Hey guys, Tomboy601, and we are back with our final tier list for the beginning of 2023, end of 2022, the tech tree battleships. If you haven't been around, the idea of this list is we're going to go through all of the tech tree battleship lines and rank them based on both the line and their tier 7 ship. Now, I would love to rank them off of the tier 8 or the legendary, but we don't have a lot of the tier 8s and we really don't have a lot of the legendaries. So I don't think it would be fair, and I think it would make a more boring and short video if I went off those. That's why we are doing the tier 7. So with all of that said, let us dive on in. And first things first, the first ship up is Iowa, and I'm sorry, I'm biased. I'm American. She's going up at S tier. The American battleship line, fantastic through and through. And then you get to Iowa, and she's a great star up at tier 7. What highlights the American battleships, or at least what highlights the primary American battleship line in our game, I think it's just its consistency, and I think it does a very good job at teaching you how to play battleships. It might reinforce the tendency to go bow in a little bit too much, but I think the hey, we have some of the most accurate guns, and that makes this one of the most accessible lines in the game to get into if you're looking for battleships. I think makes it so that it's just S tier. They have decent guns all the way through. You get your 16-inch guns once you get to tier 6. Like, overall, the American line, I think the only ship that I find a little bit annoying in it is Colorado, but beyond that, I think the whole line is spectacular, and that's why Iowa going up at S tier. After that, we have the secondary American battleship line headed by Kansas, and we're putting this down at B tier. I enjoy these ships, but I think there's only two. I think they're too much of the same of the American line, and they only really get interesting and good at North Carolina, which you could argue should be in the other line, but because of the way this game got brought in, we had to mix ways that these lines come together. I think North Carolina is a decent battleship, and then once we get up to Kansas, there's something fun when you have that many 16-inch guns and they are that accurate. I think overall the line is pretty good. It's a decent line. It's fine. It just has me, as far as what are the standout ships to it, really, to me, the only thing I really think of is Kansas. North Carolina is interesting. You're like, oh, you're weird and out of place. And then the rest of the line sort of just mirrors the other line a little bit too much, and I would have liked to see some variety. So if you were asking me, hey, which American battleship line should I grind? I think you go with the original line, and this is a fallback. This is a little bit further down the list. After that, let's head over to the Japanese battleship line, and we are going B tier for Amagi here. I think the Japanese battleship line is the more advanced starter round of battleships, if you know what I mean. The Japanese battleships tend to have really big guns for their tier, and they tend to have interesting firing angles that teach you the more, I'm going to call it the more advanced maneuver of not going bow in with your battleship, of making that turn, turning out, using a position so that the ship is angled away from the battlefield, giving you more maneuverability options. That's kind of the key with the Japanese tech tree battleship line, is teaching the player, or at least in the beginning when this was one of the original like starting rounds of ships, was teach them, okay, you can do the American thing and go bow in, or if you want something a little bit more interesting, you can go ahead and angle your ship away from the battlefield and use your maneuverability to be able to help kind of dodge shells. And at this point also, I think they tend to have a little bit better concealment. So there's some fun things you can do with the Japanese battleship line. And overall, that's why I think they're going at B tier. They're not my favorite to play. I'm not a huge fan of their dispersion model compared to like the Americans, but they're still pretty fun, especially once you get into the habit of playing them the way they want to be played. Next, we go to the good old British battleships, and I have to say, in my other tier videos, I've ranked the British ships real high. Unfortunately, here we're putting Vanguard and its line down at C. British battleships, they are fun. Don't get me wrong. It just feels a bit weird. Yes, you can run AP in them, and you have to kind of be selective. But overall, the way especially Vanguard performs, or it can end up performing, I should say, because it's received a lot of buffs, but you still there's still times I feel like I end up struggling in Vanguard, just because of the low number of guns that she has. I find myself I enjoy the line, but I'm not in love with the line. I think it's one of the weaker lines. Yes, you get the fantastic HE, and that allows you to fire spam, and you can have some great builds, especially if you have a Zerlane Nelson. But if you were to stick me in a tech tree lineup and ask me which tech tree battleship at tier 7 or tier 6 or tier 5 or tier 4 or tier 3 I want to play, unfortunately the British battleships, they're going to be fairly low on that list, and I think it's just the way as a package they end up performing. There's certain ships that are great. Queen Elizabeth comes to mind, but overall as a full line, this one's a bit lower for me. After that, we have what is, I think, the most popular battleship line in the game, the German battleships. And this is going to be Bismarck, and we're going up to A tier for these guys. They offer a unique kind of thing for the tech tree line, right? You get the brawler, you get the secondary focused ships, especially Bismarck. There's a reason Bismarck is one of the most played battleships, and that's because it's fun. And I know this tech tree list, you may be coming here for a ranking of how good a ship is, but to me, part of how good a ship is how fun it is to play, because we're here to play a game. We're supposed to have fun while playing a game. And Bismarck never fails to really put a smile on my face. I think the line going up and down is pretty good. There's nothing really stand out to me other than once you get up to Bismarck and you have those secondaries and you can get them out to dumb ranges. Like that's where I have fun with Bismarck, and that's why I find myself putting this one up at A tier. After that, we have the alternate battleship line, aka the battle cruisers for the German and Zeton. Guys, this is S tier. I is another S tier one. I absolutely love these boats. That whole line is a ton of fun, and once you get up to Zeton, the tool selection you have, the long range secondaries, the torpedoes, the sonar, like you have so many tools in your tool belt when you get to Zeton. You have utility, you have great guns. I absolutely love this line, which is why it's going up at S tier. And there's also another reason. It's one of the highest performing lines, highest performing tech tree lines in the game. And once you master it, oh my goodness, is it a ton of fun. After that, I know this is going to be controversial. We have Richelieu down at D tier. Yeah. Honestly, the only good ship in that line is Richelieu. Yes, you can meme with Lion. Yes, you can meme with Normandy. And there are some weird ass ship designs. But as far as if you were like, Tommy, what ships do you want to play? The only good one in that line is Richelieu. So unfortunately, while Richelieu, I think, definitely a top tier 7 ship, this is tech tree battleships as a line essentially, and I think that's why the French have to go lower. I know some of you are gonna be like, oh no, but it's so good, I can do so well. Yes, you can do well in them. Anyone can do well in any of these ships. But as far as Tommy, you got one game. What are you playing? It's not tier 7. It's any other tier. Usually at the bottom of that list is the French battleships. Yes, like I said, Lion, the broadside is silly. Same thing with Normandy. And it's fun. It's an interesting way to play, and it's just kind of a lulz fest, if you know what I mean. Like, oh, okay, we got tons of guns and they go boom. But as far as what I would look forward to playing, unfortunately, the French line just ain't it, Chief. It just ain't it. After that, let's move on to the Russian battleships. These guys going up to A tier. I think Vlad and Richelieu are sort of similar in the way that they play, but I think the Russian line of ships is just more fun to play overall, which is why they're going up to A tier. I think the Russian battleships, yes, they have the limited damage control parties, but these ships teach you positioning incredibly well. You have to know what broadsides you are exposed to, because if you expose it too much, you're going down. But as a trade-off for that, you get very strong guns. You get the ability to have relatively thick armor at pretty much every single tier, to the point where destroyer HE spam isn't really a factor for you, right? You're not losing chip damage a lot of time to destroyer HE spam, because your deck and your side armor is so reinforced and strong that you only lose it when they hit your superstructure. And like, if you look at Ismail, you're not doing a lot of damage to that tiny superstructure, right? Like, there is the superstructure to boat ratio on these ships is relatively big, which makes them pretty tanky to the smaller caliber guns, which is why I think that them going up to A tier. And finally, the last ship, and is this no, it's not the newest, it's Eaton, and them is one of the more recent additions is Veneto, and we're putting her at B tier. I really enjoy the Italian battleships, but you got to be in the mood for them, and you got to build them right. They are a fun alternate brawling line, especially with that SAP. I think it's been demonstrated very well just how much that SAP, especially with Marco Polo coming out, where PC has the SAP primaries, and we now have them as secondaries, and I think I prefer SAP as the secondaries. It makes them just a blast. It makes it fun to push in. It makes it so that you do consistent damage when you get hits, especially on the little destroyers. It is fun. Like, I still think about my game in Cracciolo where I nearly got a Kraken using only secondaries, or using where all of the kills were secondaries. It is a fun line, and they have that utility of the smoke. They have decent enough guns, and those secondaries, once again, they just go burr, and that just warms my heart. So B tier, they go. So guys, that is my tech tree battleship list. I'm sure you'll disagree with me, but that's fine. Let me know down in the comments below. And if you liked the video, go ahead, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day. See ya.